But today I want to share a story about how I helped a customer of mine go after a particular contract and win a direct award within 23 business days. And they just did it a few weeks ago, right? It's not like a long time ago. I've got stories from the past 20 years, and I constantly try to give you stories that were yesterday, not yesteryear. And so, because I've got great yesteryear stories, but at some point they begin to become less relevant, more interesting. But I'm going to share with you the steps that went into that. We'll talk about that. 23 business days, that's not normal. It's not normal at all. But the steps that I'm going to share with you that we went through, those are normal. Those are part of the process. That's just how we walk through. And these are also the steps that I'm following with this particular customer and actually other customers. But these are the steps I'm following with this customer to help them identify and win 10 additional opportunities before the end of the fiscal year. So this isn't just some kind of one-off thing. This is how we go forward. I really hoped you would be able to learn from it. So let's get started further talking about step-by-step for the contract win. Today, I'm going to break that down about how I help my customer win a federal contract, right? Into three main sections. I want to talk about the timeline and just lay that out for you. It's a really interesting timeline. It's fun to see. It's something that I just don't see enough people sharing. I just don't even see enough small businesses willing to share exactly what they did to win. And those are the small businesses I'm trying to find, and I will lend my support to if they're willing to tell you their stories. And so this customer, I'm going to be a little vague at the moment today, but I'm actually going to bring on the CEO and we'll interview together on the process again. If I'm lucky, I'll be able to tell 2 or 3 stories, right? And the second thing I want to cover down is two lessons that I covered, right? 2 main lessons that came out of this win. First off, the power of the focused offer to be able to write to a win. And the second lesson is being ready to brief the buyer. So you send something in, the buyer says, well, come in and talk to us. Whoa, what do we do? And so you don't want to just be ready for writing a response. You want to be ready to go in and talk to them about why you're so great. So we're going to cover down on that. If you don't know who I am, my name is McDonnell. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business owner, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret, it's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we're going to have repeatable, predictable results. If that's what you want, put process rocks into the chat. Let me know you're awake and we're all fired up about process, because that's what I'm going to teach you is the process to win. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to our Government Contracting Success newsletter. It is the largest newsletter in LinkedIn on government contracting. The reason is because we're constantly providing very valuable information about how you can succeed. Even just yesterday's issue, it's our weekly issue, letting people know about upcoming training, recent training replays. But in that issue, we shared how you can connect with the Army Contracting Command. If you're trying to work with the Army, you want them to be able to find you easier. We shared that. We shared a great article about artificial intelligence and different artificial intelligence strategies from different agencies. And so this Government Contracting Success newsletter has a lot of power in there to help you as you go forward, you and your colleagues. The last thing is I just wanted to mention, if you haven't done so already, subscribe, or thank you for, first off, thank you for registering for the training, right? We had well over 100 people register for training. We've got, 167 just on LinkedIn here at the start. We've got a lot of people coming into the training. This is your network, right? This is your community. It's not just about how I'm training, but when you register for training, you make it easier for us to be able to engage with you and others to engage with you. We've got training coming up tomorrow through Friday. It's HHS, how to win in HHS, how to get into Treasury, how to get into NASA, how to get into Department of Interior. So go register for those trainings. Let us know that you're coming. And for those of you who already registered, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Okay, let me take a sip of water and we're going to run down the timeline. Okay, so I'm going to go through this pretty fast. If you haven't been here before, I've got 21 minutes. We end right at 12:30. So it's a 30-minute training session every day. And I'm going to go through pretty fast. I'm going to try to manage my time. So again, we heard about an opportunity and my customer won it 23 days later, basically 23 business days later. And this is the journey that took them through that. Excuse me. And this was just last month. So on March 27th, they heard about an opportunity. It was a source of thought, actually. And I constantly am talking about you want to write for the wins to sources sought and RFIs. You want to get in there early because that's when they're still thinking about where do they want to go, what direction. You have a chance to influence it. So we learned about on Wednesday the opportunity. And then immediately, and this is partly because I was helping them write a response, really trying to improve the quality of their responses. But I was heading out of town for 3 days. And in the time it was due, in the time I was going to leave, excuse me, I've been sick a little bit, so I'm going to cough a little. Anyway, so we just reached out. We instantly reached out and said, would you consider extending this 2 days, right? From Monday to Wednesday is basically what we were looking for. And they got back a little later, which you'll hear about. But in that same day, we instantly went and formed the team, right? So we had all our ducks in a row. We knew who we wanted to put in and think about the solutioning side of it. We put the team together. A few days later, we had the response. And think about this. This is Wednesday. So this was over the weekend. And the reason we kind of accelerated this process is because the response was due on 4/1 the next day. And so we got it done by Sunday, got a draft response done. I don't like heroics and I don't like the weekend. And I'll talk another time about how we avoid that. But so a few days later, we got the response done. And on April 1st, when it was due, the contracting officer extended the response date. They got back to the customer and said, hey, in fact, they got back to everybody, not just to my customer, but to everybody and said, hey, the response date has been pushed to April 3rd. That's a totally normal ask, by the way. It's market research. What do they really care if we respond on a Monday or we respond 3 or 4 or 5 days later? It doesn't really matter. If they're going to get quality responses, it's actually in their best interest. They want to engage industry, learn from industry, or understand who's going to possibly write a proposal. So don't ever hesitate asking a KO. They can only do 2 things to you: say yes or no. And they can do one other thing, which is to ignore you. All right, so on April 1st, they got back to us and pushed the date. On April 3rd, we sent the response. My customer sent the response back to the government. They sent it in the morning, and in the afternoon, they were instantly sent what was obviously a well-prepared, hey, whoever's responding to us, we want to invite them in to talk to us, right? They were moving at a pretty fast pace, it looked like, the government. And so the government invited my customer to schedule an oral presentation. And basically, they scheduled it for the following week. In that time, I guided them down this path of creating a capability briefing deck. Just a quick side note, I've done this twice in the last 6 weeks in that time frame, and 3 times maybe, but at least twice. And one time, the government went right through the slides, everything briefed that way. And this time, when they went in, because I don't think I put this farther, the government kind of ignored this and just had a conversation. It's totally cool. Preparing the slide deck helped my customer be prepared to talk about anything. So they created a capabilities briefing deck. And this is not a generic capabilities briefing deck. They basically created a special PowerPoint around, and I'll talk more about it in a minute, around the opportunity they were pursuing. A few days later, on the 8th, they briefed the customer in that meeting that was scheduled, so for oral presentations. And in that briefing, it then led to several other conversations throughout the week about different things, about pricing, about technical or acquisition approach, et cetera. But my customer was able to engage with the government multiple times. On April 29th, they got notice that the government notified my customer, that they intended to award the contract. So that's how long it took, from 3/27 to 4/29, 23 business days. Even though most of us know we sometimes work on weekends and we should count those as business days, but basically 23 business days from the minute we heard about it to the minute we responded. And that is not an unusual occurrence. It's not normal across all of government contracting, but for direct awards in particular, that can move at that speed. I'm going to talk about this more, but everything before the award is kind of a normal thing. It's a dialogue. The time frame might change, but the activity doesn't really change. And so anyways, this was the timeline, and I'm going to share a couple of lessons that really came out of this that is going to help us prepare more as we go forward. And also could be really good lessons for you. Before we do, though, I wanted to share some exciting news. I'm really excited to be part of a new initiative rolling out that's designed to help you. We're going to use some AI initiatives in here, but designed to help you succeed more in government contracting. And so we're rolling out this platform I just want to tell you about. I'm very excited about it. That's going to be designed to help small businesses build relationships, Find slam dunk opportunities, the ones you should be winning. Organize the effort around your sales activities to really make it easier to get things done. Be found by federal buyers, not have to knock on every door, but have them knock on your door, and then win more contracts. And so we're excited because these are the things that over the last 6 years and tens of thousands of small businesses I've been helping are the common challenges that they face and that we're going to address with our, it's a SaaS platform, software as a service, but we're going to address it. And I'm really excited. If that's something that you're interested in learning more about, or you want to just travel along with us on that journey, go join my wait list. It's GovConInABox.com. GovConInABox.com. In fact, you could just go, minutes window, go put yourself in the wait list right now while I start talking about lesson 1, but GovConInABox.com. Okay, so let's talk about lesson 1 that came out of this, 23-day path to winning a direct award contract. The first main lesson is for my customer, this company, and for you, is that you have to have a focused offer. If you sell everything, if you're all over, it's really hard to respond, and it's really hard to look like you know what you're talking about in the response and in the dialogue that happens. And so a clear focused offer is one that when you talk about it, people can get it right away. They can get it and say, oh, that's us, I want to talk to you more. Or they can go, oh, I know what you do, it's not me, right? So clear focused offer means having a clear niche. Let me use an example that I tend to be using these days. It's like, imagine if you're Amazon Web Services, you're an Amazon Web Services or cloud native application developer or something. That's a clear niche. And then you want to have subject matter experts that are in there. So a subject matter expert might be somebody who's certified. My customer took in a subject matter expert with them when they went into those oral briefings and completely wowed the program office. The program office was just like, wow, this is just amazing on what's going on. When you have subject matter experts lined up, or if you're new and you're starting a company, you are the subject matter expert. When you have that, you just talk to your area. For example, I don't talk about pricing as an example, or this whole idea of cost plus or something. I don't talk about what Steve Kroll-Prince talks about, the legalities of protests and the FAR and things like that. Those aren't my areas of expertise. Those are my areas of I kind of know, right? But my area of expertise is sales, how to help you make money. And so you want to make sure you have subject matter experts who can really speak strongly. The second thing is, and this directly relates to the win we went after, is you want to have relatable past performances. So sticking with this AWS software development type company, right? Imagine that's the story. It's not real. But when we went in to do this win, my customer had, actually the team together had some past performances. But here's the cool thing, right? Is it wasn't even federal experience. It was outside of the federal market, but it was so relatable to it. If you do Amazon Web Services software development, it doesn't matter whether you do it in DOJ, DOD, or Walmart or something. Amazon Web Cloud is cloud is cloud, right? What your mission is different. But how I code an application for DOD or for a bank or for Walmart, it's all the same. I have to be super secure. And then I just have my requirements go in there. So you want to make sure you can come in with that subject matter expertise and then proof that you've been paid for that expertise. That's the relatable past performance. And the last one is, in order to be able to really move forward on a focused offer pretty fast, is you need to have reusable response material. Now, ironically, in this customer story I just said, they didn't have any of it. And so we rapidly wrote it. They did have an advantage, right? A lot of us were willing to just dive right in fast to write the response. Hey, let me pause 1 second, check the chat. Just, can somebody give me a sound check? Are we good? I'm only, if you're still hearing me, I'm only looking on my phone. And so it's weird to me when I see a drastic change in there. Let me know if you can hear me okay. I'm just going to wait for the first chat. First chat wins, my praise. Somebody sourcing. Come on, there we go. So I say that, yes. Hey, way to come from, oh, that came from YouTube. Anybody on LinkedIn? We good. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Ahmed. Okay, so reusable response material. I told you my customer just won this direct award. Now we want 10 more before the end of the year. And they're totally capable of doing it. It's just going to take hard work, right? So what we're doing is from this one opportunity that we just won, that the customer liked what we wrote, we're going to turn that into reusable material. You don't need to keep thinking about AI tools or something. First, you need to know how to communicate what problem you solve and what your solution is, kind of thing. And so having that reusable response material enables you to be able to respond much faster. Thank you so much for all those people out there saying we're good. Okay, so let's move into lesson 2. And so this one really got into the oral presentation as we moved on, trying to pursue this opportunity. So remember, on April, man, I already forgot. On April 3rd, we sent the response in, and an oral presentation was agreed to the following week. And so the first thing is you should have right now a capabilities briefing deck that is a basic capability statement. So here I just said have a basic PowerPoint deck. I think I left off the whole capabilities briefing PowerPoint deck. But you want to have a basic deck, and that basic deck has a title slide that is just the visual of your company. And I always put really important information on the home title slide. I don't bury it in the second slide. So my cage code, my UEI. If I'm at 8A, I put that on. SDVO, I put a logo on the front. Put that on the first slide. If that slide deck is printed out and sitting on a conference room table, or if it's sitting in somebody's cubicle and another buyer walks by, they can see it in a second. They can look in and go, oh, maybe I should see who that company is. The second slide is what I call a quad chart. So it's got 2 lines crossing each other. And basically that slide is trying to communicate, what do we do? Who has paid us before? And not a full past performance, but just some highlights. If there's a differentiator about your company, or a couple of differentiators like CMMI or ISO certifications. But this quad chart, I have many trainings on that you can find for free. I think in my newsletter, I actually write a whole article about it. But you want to have a quad chart, and that quad chart is a single slide that tells the entire story about your company. Basically, it's a capability statement in a different format. The third slide, and as you move forward, the third slide can expand on your core competencies. So if you want to expand it out into more bullets to describe, what you're doing, this is a good time to do it. You want it to be 24 or 28 font and bigger, so really big text. You're not looking for a ton of words. And then the next slide is a similar slide to that one, except for this is about past performance or experience. If you're brand new, you can tell some stories about where your expertise is, et cetera. And then any slide after that on the basic PowerPoint deck is going to be case studies. You want to tell 3 case studies. If you're bigger and you've been around a while, you can maybe tell 5. Anything more than that's just a waste, because what you're trying to do with a basic capability briefing deck is to get into the discussion. You're not trying to do a presentation up on stage. And so you want to get into a discussion as fast as possible. All companies should have that, right? But as we moved forward into this particular opportunity, and as you move forward chasing opportunities, if you get invited in to speak, you want to quickly prepare a deck. And this customized deck is still a capabilities briefing deck, but now it's customized to that deal. So in this particular case, we found an opportunity we like and went after. They said, hey, come in and talk to us about it. We then basically summarized the things we were saying within our response in far, far fewer words and much, much larger text, right? And the key percentage split that I have here is in this capability briefing deck that is about an opportunity, oral presentation, only 20% of it should be generic or about the company. 80% of it should be about the deal. And so in there, you want to be talking about maybe a slide that says, I really understand the challenge, the requirement. Here's how I understand it. This is where you're at. This is where I love sitting there trying to tie it together to some higher level challenges that are out there. So I'll give you an example. This response that we just did and we won a contract on, what we did was included some things in the challenge that were coming out of GAO reports, the Government Accountability Office. And so that office looks into an agency, is pretty critical about the agency. We were able to find a report that not only was critical about the agency, but critical about the agency related to what we were, what the requirement was. It was beautiful. And so we just kind of slid that in there. Some people sometimes call it ghosting, but you're ghosting that pain point by not actually saying GAO report, but you're just kind of putting some of that same things in, because it makes the people who read it go, oh yeah, we got that problem. GAO just hit us. It's like, we know GAO just hit you because we did our homework. Okay, and then the other things that we put into there, that's the 80% about the deal, is the technical approach. We knew part of the response that we did, there was this rapid staffing was kind of a major point that had to be made. And so we had a slide in there that just reemphasized two main points: our ability to rapidly bring on new staff if something happens. But the second one, which I like even better, is retention. This is what we do to make sure that you, customer, are not even interrupted, right? That interruption in our ability to staff it up is a risk that we're dealing with. But our retention approach and what we do throughout our company, independent of you, the customer, what we do for retention is how we avoid the risk of turnover, right? And so those kind of things really touch in. And so you can look at the response and you can do that same thing. The last thing I'll have on this bullet is always have a question slide. We did this and it was perfect because, and I've done it with this customer on 3, I think, but for sure the 2 that really engaged, 2 government agencies, where we gave them a set of questions. And these questions are the questions we have about the government or about the requirement, et cetera. This oral presentation we're going to go into, I don't consider it a briefing. I consider it a discussion. If all you're doing is having me come in to talk to your government colleagues just to present something, it was like, what's the point? I could just send you my deck, right? But if we have a discussion, hit me hard with your questions and let me ask you some questions, right? And so you want to ask questions. For us, the type of questions I like asking are ones that keep escalating the problem to a point where the government is looking at us going, man, they get us. They get the problems we have. Right? We already saw that they can do it. They said that up above. But these questions are really insightful questions. And so if you know your space, if you're a SME, you should be able to look at that. But having those questions, both government agencies I talked about, and certainly this one where we just won that contract, they embrace the questions. Hey, let's talk about it. Oh, this is a good question. I love it when people go, that's a great question. I'm like, I know it's a great question because we have the question too. Like we're not miraculous at questions. We looked and we're confused about this one thing. So you want to make sure you have a question slide. When you do that, you're ready to brief the buyer. Man, I just realized I've been back after a week off and I forgot, but I left out the 3 steps. Hold on. Okay, so I just got to look at my board because I wrote them there. Here's what I want you to remember. First off, make sure you have a clear, focused offer. You're going after opportunities, especially as we head to the end of the year. Tighten up the opportunity requirements that you're going after. Have that clear, focused offer. The second thing, watch for sources sought notices and RFIs. Look for those and respond, because when you do, you have the chance to get in there, demonstrate that you're a subject matter expert, be able to discuss things with the customer, really begin to build that relationship. There's nothing wrong with going after RFPs when they're at that acquisition stage, but you don't really have any influence at that point. So watch for the sources sought notices. And then the last tip I have for you, step 3, is respond as if you want to win. I see people sometimes just half-baked respond to a requirement the government has in sources sought or the RFI stage. Don't do that. Write as if you win. Write as if your life depended on it. Right? Don't wait till the RFP comes out, because that's where I'm really going to put our good stuff in. It's like, no, put all your good stuff in early. Let the government be wowed at you at the stage where they could sit there and say either one of 2 things. Hey, let's just give them the contract. Or 2, come in here and help us really understand the problem more and more. You will get insight that even if it has to be competitive, your competitors won't have that insight. So those are my 3 tips for you. I hope you found this valuable. If you did, throw a little thanks into the chat for me and the team. We really appreciate that. Remember, we've got training all through the rest of the week. So we got HHS, Treasury, NASA, and DOI this week talking about how to do business in there. If you're looking for help growing your company and you're at, like, let's say the 2 million plus range, go ahead and reach out to us. Ask us about our BD Accelerator workshop. You can just learn more on GovCon Chamber. For all of us, just remember, government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. I'll see you in the next training.